Is a motorway bigger than a dual carriageway? What's the difference between street, road, and avenue? What's a roundabout? And how do you say roundabout in American English? We'll answer all these questions and more in this episode on traffic. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello, and if you're a new listener, welcome. And also welcome if you're a returning listener. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And together with over, nearly 50 years now of teaching between us, Reza and I are going to help you improve your English and take it to the next level. How are you, Reza?
I'm fine, Craig. I'm fine. I'm adapting to the changing weather. This is a changing time of year. How are you?
I'm okay. It's been a difficult week, but I'm really happy to be podcasting again with you. So what's first on the list today?
Well, first of all, we have an audio message from SpeakPipe. So that was a message recorded by Dragos. We hope we're pronouncing his name properly because he's very particular about names.
Yes, he is.
Dragos.
Hello, Riz and Greg. I'm so excited to speak with you guys. I haven't been listening to you for that long, but long enough to be engaged with your postcard. As one of you listeners says once about your great engagement of your voice. Anyway, my name is Dragos and I was born in Romania, but at the age of 6, I moved to Spain. So born in Romania and bred in Spain. Although I'm living in London right now, southwest London in Alsfield. So I just want to say you guys that you are awesome. Yeah, all the work you've done and still is just incredible. All the hard work you've put into it, I tip my hat to it. I guess that was right. I came in London to learn English because, as you know, in Spain the English teaching is quite, how can I say this, slowly. Well, I guess you got it. When I arrived, I spoke no English at all, nothing, not even known how to ask to go to the toilet properly. So I had to work a lot to improve it. And one of the greatest teachers I had were you guys. So many thanks for the help you've done to me and many, many more people. I still need thousands and thousands of hours of learning, definitely. So keep going with your great podcasts because you are cheeky funny so many times and seems like you are really good friends too. So very fun in learning with you guys. Well, before I say bye, I want to add something too. So while I was writing this to can say it as soon as possible, I had some struggles knowing how your names are spelled. So this is what I found out about your names. Reza is a Muslim baby name, and what means is a contentment, acceptance, satisfaction. In spite of Greg, it's a Scottish, Irish, Welsh, masculine given name. All variations derive from the same Celtic branch. The name derived from the Scottish Gaelic word Craig, C-R-E-A-G, meaning rock, similar to Peter. Sorry about the Muslim baby. That's what internet says. Thank you very much. Many thanks, and have a lovely day, guys.
Thank you very much for your message, Dragos. There's one small correction I would like to make about the pronunciation of podcast. And many people who send us audio messages also make small mistakes with this word. Listen carefully. It's pod, P-O-D, podcast. I think it can be difficult because of the collection of consonant sounds at the end, the S and the T together. Cast, the same as in last or fast. Cast, podcast.
Yes, and I noticed one little thing, Dragos. You were talking about teaching English in Spain, and you said that you're now in London because you think you can learn better there. Well, obviously you will learn better there because it's an English-speaking country, because of the environment. You said teaching is quite slowly. You said slowly, but we should just use an adjective. Teaching is quite slow because the adjective describes the noun teaching. Teaching is quite slow.
And I really liked your expression, Dragos, I tip my hat to you. That's a lovely expression. If you tip your hat to someone, you salute them, you thank them, you say well done. So thank you, Dragos, for tipping your hat to us. The Americans might say kudos to you. I think kudos is it a Greek word? Kudos? Kudos?
I think so, yeah.
Which is kind of like well done, congratulations, that kind of thing. Thank you very much for doing the research into our names. So as you correctly said, Craig is a Scottish Gaelic origin meaning rock. And my middle name is Philip, in case you're interested. Have you got a middle name?
I don't. One weird name is enough. Thank goodness I've just one. What about your middle name, Philip? Do you know anything about the origins or meaning of Philip?
No, I'm not sure, and I don't know why my parents gave me two names. But what's interesting here in Spain, since I've been living here over the 22 years, is that people find my first name, Craig, difficult to pronounce here. So they often call me Philip, and they notice that on my ID card. So if I'm at the doctor's or if I'm waiting to go into an office or something, they'll call me Philip and not Craig. Probably because it's easier to pronounce.
Dragos, we've done a little bit of research into your name, haven't we, Craig?
Yes, we have, because you researched ours. So Dragos comes from the Romanian Drago or Dragos and Serbian or Croatian Central Dalmatia and Slovenian Dragos. So it has all those origins, and it's from a derivative of the South Slavic personal name Dragoslav, based on the adjective drag, which is dear or beloved. So it's a name for someone from a place called Dragos or Dragos Falva in Transylvania. So there you are, Dragos. I'm sure you knew that, but we thought we'd say that anyway. And what does your name mean? If you're listening, does your name have a meaning? We'd like to know. So why don't you send us a voice message and tell us the meaning and origin of your name? You can do that on SpeakPipe, and we will tell you all the information about how to contact us at the end of the podcast.
Next, we have another interesting name, a very nice name, Carolina. Carolina is from Bogota, so I guess that's a Colombian name, although it could be Spanish and even English as well. I've heard English people called Carolina or also Caroline. And she has sent us a voice message.
Hello, Craig. Hello, Reza. This is Carolina from Bogota, Colombia. This is my first voice message for you. And I really wanted to do it a long time ago since I started to listen to you guys. But unfortunately, I wasn't brave enough. So I'll keep it short and sweet as you teach me in one of your previous podcasts. Well, the thing is that I really want to thank you 10,000 times. Thank you. If I talked about it 2 months ago, I was unable to say a word in English. Now I still make a lot of mistakes, but I feel optimistic. I feel more confident. It's like I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And that's because of you. So thank you. Keep doing it. And I'll be sticked to your podcast for many time as is possible. I send you a big hug and I'll keep in touch. Bye bye.
Well, Carolina, thank you very, very much for your lovely voice messages. We really enjoyed listening to them. We were both swooning over your voice, which is really sweet and really lovely. So thank you very much. And your level of English is incredibly good, isn't it, Reza?
Yes, from what I understand, you've made very, very rapid progress. You said you could barely speak a few months ago, and now you're really very fluent, and your pronunciation is very good, Carolina.
And I liked the way that you've used expressions we've been mentioning on the podcast, and you're using them in your speaking now. Expressions like short and sweet. I'll keep this message short and sweet. And to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It's obvious you're really working on your English and you're reflecting on your mistakes. And this is how Carolina is studying English. She's noticing her mistakes and she's improving every time. So let's listen now to her second message, in which she mentions and notices ways that she can improve her speaking.
I realized that I made two big mistakes in my last voice message. One of them was when I say at the end, maybe, that I'll be sticked. I think now that it would be better if I would say that I'll be listening to you for many time as I can. I don't know. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And the other was when I say, if I talk about it, and now I realize that it would be better if I will say, if I think about it in present. Well, please, if you realize about some mistake in my voice message, please let me know. And thank you for everything. Have a good day.
So there she's reflecting, she's listening to her message and trying to improve her speaking. And that's probably one of the reasons that Carolina's making such quick progress in her speaking. Reza, how could she say that better? She's trying to say that she's going to stick to the podcast for a long time. Is there an expression she can use?
Yeah, you said a couple of things, but they were both not quite right. You could say, Carolina, I'll stick with your podcast. Or you could say, I'll listen to you for as long as I can. Or I'll keep listening to you. Or maybe, I hope to be following your podcast for a long time.
Yeah, that way of using keep is very interesting. I'll keep doing something. Continue, or seguir in Spanish. I'll keep doing it. I'll keep listening to you. I'll keep subscribing to your podcast. I'll keep improving my English. So I'll keep plus gerund.
Craig, did you notice any other things which could be improved?
I didn't actually. I thought it was a lovely message. Well, both messages were very, very good. And Carolina, your English is wonderful. So yes, keep practicing, keep improving, keep noticing those mistakes. Please send us more messages in the future.
I'm going to be really pedantic. That means really insistent, because you asked me to, Carolina.
Oh, you have another one?
I've got another one.
Oh, what did you spot? What did you notice?
You said that it would be better if I would... no. Two woods there. It would be better if I would... a conditional sentence. Second conditional. There'll only be one would.
That's true.
It would be better if I did. So past simple. If I did, if I stopped, if I ran, if I came. So would for the result, but past simple for the condition. It would be better if I practiced more, for example.
So one way of improving your English, little by little, step by step, is to take Carolina's method on board and do what Carolina's doing and record your voice, listen for your mistakes, keep constantly improving and correcting yourself. Or perhaps you would benefit from having a personal online teacher through our sponsor, italki. Would your English improve? Would you be able to work with a teacher to improve other parts of your English that need some work? Why not try italki and connect with a teacher online? So you work face-to-face with a teacher through Skype or similar software. And it's very easy to register on italki, find your teacher, choose a teacher that's good for you. And to do that, you can watch the teacher's video introduction, read some reviews from previous students. And then when you've decided on your teacher, schedule your first lesson. So you choose a date and a time that's convenient for you to take the lesson. Then you connect and you have your lesson with your teacher. Now, if you decide to go through our website and try italki, they're offering a $10 credit when you pay for your first lesson through our website link. So there are more details on our website. Go to inglespodcast.com/259, click on the link. And Reza and I would like to thank italki for sponsoring Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig.
Craig, we have a little bit more feedback. This time it's an email, and we have another interesting name. It's from Said El Elaimi. I don't know if my pronunciation is right, but I've tried my best. What does he say, Craig?
Well, Said sent us an email, and I'll read it for you. He says, I am an ardent listener of your podcasts. I really love them and follow them regularly. I would like you to prepare a lesson on traffic and related vocab, unless you've already done so. If so, which episode? Well, thank you very much, Said, for your suggestion, which we liked very much. So that's the theme of today's podcast. We did speak about cars and driving, and that can be found at inglespodcast.com/101. But today we're focusing more on vocabulary connected to traffic and roads. And there are different ways of describing roads, aren't there, Reza? Could you give us some examples?
Yes, there are plenty of words for roads, and indeed it depends what country you're in, because British and American English is sometimes a little bit different. Let's start with a simple thing, a path. Paths have existed for a long time. P-A-T-H. A path is simply a narrow, that's estrecho, the opposite of wide, a narrow path, and it's usually for pedestrians, people who walk, not usually for vehicles.
Pedestrians are peatonales, aren't they in Spanish?
Yeah, peatones.
Peatones, sorry.
Peatones.
Peatones.
People who walk. Or there's another meaning of path, which is very common, a metaphorical meaning. For example, in religion or spiritual guidance, people often talk about you must follow the right path.
Do you think, Reza, you're walking on a righteous path?
Well, I think so. Hopefully the podcasts are helping me follow the right path. I mean, after all, Craig, we do these podcasts for free. And we like to think we're helping people. So that's quite a good path to follow, don't you think?
I think that's a very good path to follow. There's a word that's similar to path, and it's trail, Trail. Trails tend to be more adventurous than paths. You wouldn't normally find them in the city, and they may not be very well marked. You could also use trail in the meaning of a trail of blood, for example. Imagine you cut your finger, and on the way to the bathroom, the blood is dripping and falling on the floor. And your mum might say, hey, be careful, you're leaving a trail of blood along the floor. Or you could go outside when it's raining, come back in and leave a trail of mud on the floor.
Another important word is lane. L-A-N-E. Lane. That has a couple of meanings. We always think of something small. Could be an unimportant street. It can be urban in a city, or it can be rural in the countryside. A city lane or an urban lane. Or a completely different meaning is simply a marked part of a road designed to be wide enough for one vehicle. So, for example, imagine there's a very wide, very important road. There could be 6 lanes, 3 in each direction. So 3 lanes going one way and 3 lanes going the other way. So the lanes are marked by broken white lines.
So it could be like a fast lane and a slow lane, or an overtaking lane.
Exactly.
When you pass people on the road, you overtake them, and there's a lane for overtaking. Of course, there are bus lanes in cities and cycle lanes for bicycles and taxis.
I've heard, I haven't been there, I don't know if you know, Craig, but I've heard that there are special lanes, I think it's in Russia, special lanes in some areas of cities, which are only for VIPs. VIP lanes.
I've heard that too. Yeah.
Wow, that's an incredible idea.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it's true. If anybody's ever been, or if we've got any listener living in Russia, can you confirm for us that there are VIP, very important person, VIP lanes? So only very important people can drive in those lanes.
And have you noticed that those lanes tend to be for people driving BMWs and Mercedes, because then they have the right to park anywhere and go where they like in the road.
What's a road, Craig?
A road, R-O-A-D, be careful of the pronunciation. It's not road, it's road, the same sound as go or slow. Road is anything that connects 2 points. So a road is something that you can drive or cycle down.
Way is a very common word in English, W-A-Y, way. And it can be a small side road off a main road. Way can also just mean direction. For example, what's the way to the bank? Oh, it's over there. It's that way.
When you have the Milky Way,
Oh, yes, of course.
Via Galactica, the Milky Way. Road is often confused with street, but a street is a public road with buildings and sometimes shops. And that's why when you go to the UK, you often find high streets in the centre of some cities and towns. The high street. Where's the high street? That's usually the busiest main area of the town or city where the shops and the banks and the supermarkets are.
Another thing you get usually in cities or towns is an avenue. An avenue. It's hard to define an avenue. There's no clear definition of it. Although I think as an English speaker, you kind of have an idea in your mind. One definition we found was something that runs perpendicular at 90 degrees to streets. But that doesn't really tell you very much, does it? For me, an avenue, it'll probably be a nice street.
Yes.
A big wide street, and it'll be nice, and it'd be a nice place to sit, maybe have a coffee. And if you buy a house there, it's probably going to be quite expensive.
More expensive than in a street or a road.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice street.
And when you travel around the UK, you often see the name of the street or road, and then the word street or road or avenue or way. So you might get Marbury Way or Strange Road or Warrington Street or Razor Avenue. So you'd get the name after the name of the place.
Craig, I'm sure most of our listeners already know the verb to drive. But what is a drive?
A drive is a winding road or street or avenue. And if something winds like a snake, there are lots of curves and bends in it, so it is not straight. Have you seen the film Mulholland Drive?
I have, yes.
And that's a drive in Hollywood, in LA, in the Hollywood area of LA. And you can obviously see in the film this winding drive that goes through the hills and passes houses. So a drive is basically a road or a street that's very winding and changes direction.
Although there is another meaning of drive. A drive can be a private street, if you like, which goes from the main street up to a big house. So if you live in a mansion in the countryside, you're really rich, got a big house, there might be a drive running through all your land, from the main public street to get up to your door. That would also be a drive.
Yep, and you might hear it called a driveway sometimes. My parents used to say, park the car on the drive or park the car on the driveway. But our drive was very, very short. It was the length of a car. It wasn't very long, but we called it the drive. Yeah.
Now, the word boulevard, for me, sounds really fancy. If you're on a boulevard, it's going to be nice.
Sounds French.
Yeah. It's going to be like an avenue, maybe even nicer than an avenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think of trees. Boulevards tend to have trees.
I think of Paris. I think of France when I think of Boulevard. Very nice with flowers and trees and green grass and bushes, perhaps.
And isn't there that famous address, Sunset Boulevard in America?
Yeah.
Have you ever been there?
I have not. I think that's in LA as well, isn't it? In California?
Yeah. Why is it famous? Is that where the rich and famous go?
I think that's where the Hollywood names and stars are in the pavement, and we'll look at pavement later. Pavement is acera. We'll look at that word later. But yeah, the stars, the famous film directors and actors and actresses are on Sunset Boulevard, I think.
A much perhaps less glamorous term is dual carriageway. We don't think of fancy trees and things there necessarily. It's simply a road with a dividing strip. That's a long, thin thing, a strip between the traffic in opposite directions. It usually has 2 or maybe even more lanes in each direction. So it's an important road usually. So it's dual. It's clearly divided into 2 parts. So in theory, traffic traveling in either direction should never collide. There can't easily be a collision because there's a division in the middle. So you can drive a bit faster then.
Yeah. I nearly died on a dual carriageway once.
Ooh, what happened?
I was very young, driving too fast, of course, and I was driving down a small side street, and I didn't see the end of the side street was actually a dual carriageway. It was a road that went onto the dual carriageway. I braked, the car skidded, which means it slid. It went, and the front of the car hit the dividing place in the middle of the dual carriageway. And I looked to my right and all these car headlights were coming at me. It was at night. So I put the car in reverse back out of the dual carriageway, and luckily avoided a very, very serious accident.
That could have been horrendously
It could have been, because it would have crashed straight into me, because my drive is obviously in the UK, I was driving on the right hand side of the car.
In the UK?
And the traffic, yes, the driver sits on the right side of the car.
Yeah.
The traffic was coming from the right, so the cars would have gone straight into my door. I was very, very lucky.
Wow, yeah. If a car hit you in a dual carriageway, you'd probably die on impact.
Yeah.
I don't think you'd survive.
Going very, very fast, maybe 100 miles an hour, 100 kilometers an hour.
Scary.
Another place where cars go very fast is on a motorway. A motorway, which in Spanish could be autopista or autovía. Is there a difference in Spanish between autopista and autovía?
Yes, it took me a long time to clarify it, but there is. Autopista is a toll road motorway. And autovía is a motorway where you don't have to pay a toll. A toll is money you have to pay to use a road. How did I remember? I kept confusing them. And then I finally remembered that the word for toll, T-O-L-L, is peaje in Spanish, right?
Yeah.
So I learned to remember that pista, peaje, beginning with P, autopista, pista, peaje, toll. That's how I eventually remembered it. So now I know in Spain, I don't know about other countries, but in Spain, when you look up at the signs, if it says AP, that's autopista, and you're going to have to pay. If it just says A, you don't pay. But if it says AP, I think P, pay. Peaje, pay.
Pay for peaje.
So they're both motorways, and the autovía can be just as good as the autopista, just you don't have to pay. So we've only got one word for that in English, motorway, but if you have to pay, it's a toll road.
And in the US, in North America, motorway is highway. Highway, Highway, which is basically a road where you can go a bit faster and there's more than one lane. So more than one lane in a highway. You may notice in America they have 2 other words, expressway and freeway. And both of those are wider than a highway. So more lanes in an expressway and a freeway than a highway.
We've already mentioned the word road, but there's a few variations. We've mentioned a toll road you have to pay to use. Also, a main road is a very important expression because it's an important thoroughfare. I better spell that word. Thorough-G-H-F-A-R-E.
No relation from the spelling to the the pronunciation.
So a main road is an important thoroughfare. A thoroughfare is just a way, una vía, but it's an important thoroughfare in a town or connecting two towns, that would be a main road. Something like in Spanish, carretera principal, or something like that, or una calle importante, something like that. It's a main road.
On the other hand, an unimportant road, perhaps in the countryside, is a country road. A country road. So it's not a main road, it's a secondary road. It's quieter, it's smaller, and it's usually in the country.
Have you ever heard people in the UK talk about A roads and B roads?
Yes, A roads have more traffic and they tend to be wider.
Yeah.
And B roads, quieter, more in the countryside, and usually narrower.
Yeah. Basically, an A road is a main road, and a B road is a country road.
Have you heard of the band The Backstreet Boys?
Who hasn't heard of the Backstreet Boys?
What's a backstreet?
Well, presumably that's where they come from originally. It's a street which is away from the main thoroughfares. There's that difficult word again, thoroughfares. So it's not an important street and it's not near the important streets. It's a back street.
And I often find that the best restaurants with the best food and value for money and the more interesting bars and pubs can often be found in the back streets, especially when you're a tourist and you're traveling around famous cities or towns. If you find the back streets go away from the main thoroughfares, you're more likely to find interesting places to eat and drink in the back streets. Some of these definitions and differences between these roads and streets and avenues are taken from a video based on US English, based on American English, and I will put the link to that video in the show notes for you to watch. It is at inglespodcast.com/259. So for clarification, go and watch that video. It's quite short and it's very, very well made, and it will give you more reinforcement and more practice with these different words describing roads.
Roadworks is a word which you should be familiar with. It's a very annoying thing, I'm afraid, but you're going to have to get used to it wherever you drive.
It's a British horror story that we
Yes.
tell on Twitter. If you listen to that episode on horror stories based around Twitter, Roadworks is a 2-word horror story.
So whenever they have to repair a road, there's a problem, there will be roadworks.
And why don't they do it at night time when everybody's sleeping? Why do they do it at rush hour when everything's busy? I don't know. Road signs give you information as you're driving or riding around the roads. So a road sign will tell you the speed limit. It will tell you if you have right of way, different directions. All informations on the roads can be found on road signs.
Craig mentioned the speed limit. That's the maximum speed you can drive by law. So that will be written on a sign.
They changed it recently, I think, in Spain. They changed some of the speed limits 10 kilometers per hour less. So on roads, I noticed where it used to be a speed limit of 100 kilometers per hour, it's now 90. So in the last few months, they've reduced the speed limit on some roads here.
Another important word you'll need to know about traffic is intersection, or you could say crossroads. That means where two or more roads cross. I think they use intersection more in American English, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And there's a specific type of intersection, which is a T-junction. Think of the letter T. Think of what it looks like. That's pretty much a diagram of a T-junction.
Sometimes the road is blocked, and that, of course, is a roadblock. It means that you cannot continue for whatever reason. And also there's another word that stops you continuing on the road, and that's a checkpoint, which is often used for security checks. There was one recently here in Valencia where the police had blocked the road, and it was a checkpoint. They were letting some cars through, and they were checking and questioning some drivers. So it was a police checkpoint.
I grew up stopping at checkpoints in Northern Ireland. For me, it's not unusual at all. There were many, many, many checkpoints when I was a child.
By the police or the army?
Both.
Yeah.
Sometimes the police, sometimes the army, and sometimes both together. They quite often coordinated.
Did you feel intimidated? Did you feel scared?
When I was a bit younger, but as I grew older, no, you kind of get used to them. But still a little bit uneasy. I mean, it's not pleasant because they were fully armed. There may have been
Fully armed means they had weapons and guns.
Yeah, and when I say fully armed, I'm talking about Sterling machine guns, possibly if it was the army waiting further away, rifles, and they're wearing bulletproof clothing. You're not going to kill them. They're going to kill you if there's a shootout. You know.
Wow.
What happened was usually they would create a queue, a line of cars on purpose. They wanted there to be a queue. And the reason was that they had already radioed back to headquarters, la sede central, to find out who you were or who you were supposed to be before you arrived. So they already know who you should be. So they're merely verifying the information.
So then they ask you a couple of questions, and if everything checks out, if everything's okay, you go through.
Yep. Who are you? Is this your car? If it's not your car, who owns it? And they already know the answers.
Yeah.
And there's someone at headquarters speaking to them on the walkie-talkie. The answer. So your answers better coincide. And if not, they're going to take you away and question you further.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah. Well, you get used to it. Yeah. It was a good way for me also as a child to get used to face-to-face live English accents. Oh, yeah, of course, you see plenty of English programs on TV. After all, Northern Ireland is in the United Kingdom, for the moment anyway. So, of course, I was very familiar with English and Scottish and all sorts of accents on TV. But I lived in Northern Ireland, so there weren't so many English people there to talk to face. So quite often the soldiers were English.
So what did you hear? Did you hear a Cockney London like, "Oi, you, go over there"? Or did you hear, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind turning off your ignition and stepping out of the car"?
Well, it depended partly on the rank of the soldier.
Oh, the officers were more upper class.
Or you might get you can see your license there, pal, because they might have been Scottish as well. And but it's quite fun waiting in the car and looking at their uniform and trying to find some kind of emblem. So if they were the Royal Highland Regiment or something like
They
that,
were Scottish.
you would expect a Scottish accent when you arrived there, and you get, there might have been a Welsh regiment or something. So it depended on the regiment, Royal Cheshire, something like that. You kind of got to know the different regiments and then expected the different accents. It was kind of fun in a way.
So that's one way of improving your English, talking to the army.
Go to a checkpoint. No, don't go to checkpoint. I'm only joking.
Apart from checkpoints and roadblocks, another way of causing a car to stop is with a traffic light or a traffic signal. Orange, green and red.
Orange, no. The classic mistake. It isn't orange.
Isn't orange?
Technically speaking.
Yellow.
Of course, everybody says orange, but it's not. Technically, according to the highway code, it's amber.
What's the highway code?
El código de... No sé, what is it in Spanish? That code that sets the rules
for driving.
The regulation. The Spanish have one as well. It's called El Código de Circulación, maybe? Código da Vinci. And technically, it's amber. And in Spain as well, it's also amber. But nearly all of us say orange, but it isn't. It's amber.
I apologise. So green, amber and red. Do you always stop at red traffic lights in Valencia, or do you...
Funny. Yeah, you did say Valencia there, didn't you? In the UK, I always stop at red traffic lights.
Me too.
In Valencia...
It depends.
It depends what other people are doing. If I've got somebody behind me going quite fast and he looks like he wants to go on, I think, well, I'll go on. He's going to go on and he's behind me. So I'm more flexible in Valencia.
For me, it depends. If I'm in my barrio, if I'm in my area and I know the streets and I know the traffic lights, maybe I'll cross on red if there's no cars coming. It depends.
But only when it's just changed.
Yes.
Yeah, or maybe when it's amber going to red, yeah?
Rotonda. How do you say that in English?
Fat. No, or roundabout.
Roundabout. We're talking about traffic, Reza.
Yeah.
Roundabout in the UK. However, a roundabout in the US is a traffic circle. Which makes more sense, doesn't it, really?
Is it in theory or in reality? How many traffic circles have you seen in the US?
Not many. I've seen a lot more in the UK. They're very common. Roundabouts, they're everywhere in the UK.
Are you sure they even exist at all in the USA?
Yes, but there aren't many. I
Very few.
have seen some, but they tend to be definitely outside of cities, in small towns and villages. So it's an intersection, obviously, where the roads meet at a circle.
And it's strange that in America, they don't really like them. As Craig says, there are very, very few. Europe is full of them, but the Americans haven't really taken to roundabouts or traffic circles.
Another pair of words that differ if you're in the UK or in the US is athena that we mentioned earlier. So in the UK, you walk as a pedestrian on the pavement, and in the US, you walk on the sidewalk, which makes more sense to me because it's the part at the side of the road where you walk. So the North Americans call it a sidewalk, but in the UK, you'll hear the word pavement.
And what if you want to get across from one side of the road to the other?
Well, then you could walk on a zebra crossing. Or in the US, a crosswalk. Also, you might hear pedestrian crossing in the UK. So zebra crossing because it's black and white like a zebra. Or pedestrian crossing because pedestrians use them to cross the road. Or in the US, crosswalk.
Have you heard of a pelican crossing?
Pelican's an animal, isn't it?
Yeah, just like a zebra.
It's a bird.
Curious, yeah. Zebra is an animal and pelican is an animal, and they're both used to describe crossings.
So what's the difference between a pelican crossing and a zebra crossing, apart from the zebra being bigger like a horse?
Well, I must admit, I had to check this on internet, and I'm sure most people would. A pelican crossing is the same as a zebra crossing, but it has traffic lights. So it has the black and white markings, but it has traffic lights. And a zebra crossing doesn't have the traffic lights. But nearly everybody says zebra crossing all the time.
Yeah, that's true. If the cars are not moving because there's too much traffic, it's called a traffic jam. Jam. Some Spanish speakers sometimes confuse the words jam and ham. Ham with an H is jamón, and jam is mermelada, or in this case, traffic jam when the traffic sticks together. So be careful of the pronunciation of traffic jam, and the word ham.
A typical adjective to describe traffic, if there's a lot of it, if there's a big traffic jam or there's traffic all over the city, we might talk about heavy traffic. A lot of traffic, heavy traffic. And of course, the opposite. If there isn't much traffic, you could say there's light traffic only.
If you want to go over the traffic, you go over the traffic on a flyover. It's one word, flyover, flyover in the UK. However, in the US, it's called an overpass because the traffic passes over a road or a motorway. So flyover, you don't actually fly, you drive, but you fly over the traffic, and it's an overpass in the US.
A bit of maybe a trivial question in a way. Maybe I'm being pedantic, but let's be very fussy, tickies-mickeys about this. Do you know the difference between a flyover and a bridge? Puente. They're not the same.
Maybe a bridge doesn't necessarily need to be for cars and vehicles, and a flyover is not for pedestrians. Is that the difference?
That's true. A flyover is only for vehicles. It's not for pedestrians. And also a flyover is not for trains and other things. It's only for
trains can go over
vehicles.
bridges as well.
But hold on, there's still one slight problem. Cars can also go over bridges.
Yes.
Yeah. The thing is, I happen to know this because I was discussing it a couple of weeks ago with some Spanish people. A flyover starts and ends at the same height, ground level. And so it starts at ground level, it goes up, and then it comes down again to ground level.
Oh, interesting.
But a bridge doesn't do that if you think about it.
Yeah.
Try to visualize. You're at ground level. You go up to get over, to fly over the traffic. Then you come down again to ground.
To road level, yeah.
That is not a bridge. A bridge doesn't do that.
Interesting.
Curious, eh?
Yeah. What do you do if you're driving and somebody sends you a text message that you have to answer, or somebody phones you on your mobile phone? Well, you don't drive and text, do you, Reza?
No one in Valencia would ever do that.
You don't do that. It's against the law. What you do, and this is a phrasal verb, is you pull over to the side of the road, or maybe into a lay-by, Layby. A lay-by is that safe, small area at the side of the road where you can pull over or pull out of traffic so that you can stop and use your phone or eat something or do something in the car, whatever, but it's out of the flow of the traffic. When you've finished your phone call and you want to continue driving, you pull out into traffic from the lay-by. So those two phrasal verbs are useful: pull over and then pull out of a lay-by to join the traffic. If you want to park your car in the UK, sometimes you have to pay money, put money into a machine that's on the pavement, and that's called a parking meter. So you put your money in a parking meter and you can park for an hour or 2 hours, etc.
Or you could just go to a car park. Now, let's clarify this once and for all. A parking does not exist in English. Yeah, you say un parking in Spanish. That's great. Good for you in Spanish, un parking. But in English, it's a car park. Parking in English is aparcando. Like, I am parking. It's not a place. The place is a car park. But in American English, they call it a parking lot.
If you drive too close to the person in front of you, that's called tailgating. To tailgate, to drive aggressively too close behind another car. That commonly happens in Spain, I think more than in the UK. Do you agree? People tailgate more here?
Yeah, particularly on motorways.
Yeah.
When someone wants to overtake you in Spain, sometimes, not everyone, they make it clear by being like 20 centimeters behind you, which is incredibly dangerous.
That's when I slow down, actually. But tail, obviously, collar, so it's right on your tail, on the back of your car. They're tailgating you.
I particularly hate it whenever I'm already doing more than the speed limit. Let's say the speed limit's 120 and I'm overtaking someone and I'm doing 130 to overtake them. And I've got somebody 10 centimeters behind me and he won't stop. He has to wait because I've got a car to the right of me. I can't go anywhere till I get past it. And I'm doing 130 and he's right behind me. That particularly annoys me.
Me too.
Very much indeed.
Me too. I hate that. Yeah.
If you don't park your car properly and pay the money in the parking meter that we mentioned earlier, then the traffic warden, or in American English, the meter maid, will give you a ticket. Not a ticket to go to a concert, no.
A fine.
A fine, una multa. They'll give you a ticket, a parking ticket, because they are the people responsible for enforcing parking laws. Traffic warden, that's W-A-R-D-E-N, or meter maid, M-A-I-D. When we say meter maid, we tend to think of a woman because a maid is an old-fashioned word for a woman.
There's that joke when you go back to your car, and I went back to my car yesterday and there was a note on the windscreen. The windscreen is parabrisas. There was a note on the windscreen that said parking fine. So that made me very happy. But it wasn't parking fine, very good. It was parking fine multa.
Craig, do you enjoy driving?
I do enjoy driving, but not in heavy traffic. I love driving in the countryside, pretty winding country lanes, and outside of cities. I don't like city driving, especially when I don't know where I'm going. I get a little stressed in heavy traffic and I don't know where I'm going. So yes, in general, but not in traffic. And you?
Like you in the countryside, if there isn't much traffic. Have you ever experienced road rage? Someone being angry?
I get road rage sometimes, yeah.
Oh, you get angry with other people?
Yes,
Ah.
yes.
Where's the worst place you've ever had to drive, Craig?
The worst place I've driven, I remember going to visit a friend in Detroit, and we hired a car. We rented a car in Detroit and crossed the border to Canada and drove up to Toronto. And during the day, it started raining really, really, really heavily. Heavy rain, torrential rain on the, well, it's not motorway, is it, in America? It's freeway or highway. And the windscreen wipers, limpia parabrisas, the windscreen wipers weren't working properly. So I couldn't see as I was driving. And we had to stop and sleep in a hotel in the middle of the day and wait until the rain stopped because we just could not continue with the car. And that was really, really scary. What about you?
Oh, yes, I'll never forget. My advice is do not do this. If it's your first time ever in Morocco, or even if it's not your first time, don't do what I did. Don't arrive at the airport, immediately collect your rental car and drive from the airport to the center of Casablanca. Do not do that because
Heavy traffic in Casablanca?
to say the least, it is not a romantic experience. You're not going to bump into Humphrey Bogart and all. No. You're probably going to bump into another car. And that's what I did. So suddenly driving in Morocco in extremely heavy traffic, I hit rush hour, and within about half an hour, the daylight had gone and it was night. Oh, what a scary experience. And I wasn't used to the idea that in Morocco, many drivers there think it's all right to narrowly miss. That means there's very little gap. Narrowly miss you by about a centimeter, they think that's okay. So it's not, they didn't hit you, it's okay.
It sounds very, very chaotic.
And roundabouts are a free-for-all. Just do what you like.
Have you ever had an accident in a car?
No, never ever.
Congratulations. I hope that continues.
What about you?
I've had several, yeah. 2 or 3 in Spain, one very bad one in the UK on my 18th birthday.
Oh, of course, you told me already about it.
Yeah, that was quite bad.
What a stupid question. My memory's not very long.
Apart from the dual carriageway accident, but that wasn't an accident. I didn't hit anything. But there was a very bad accident apart from that on my 18th birthday when I hit a car and another car hit me from behind. So tailgating, obviously. Getting too close to the car in front.
It's very common to say somebody went into the back of you. We say somebody went into the back of Craig.
Chocar.
Craig, what's the answer to easing, to make urban traffic congestion easier? Any solutions?
Yeah, ban cars from the city centre and make everybody walk, take public transport and ride bicycles.
I couldn't agree more.
Cleaner air, less congestion, and much nicer for everybody because not so much smoke in the air. And now it's your turn to practice your English. Where's the worst place you've ever driven? Where's the worst place you've ever driven? Do you enjoy driving? We'd like to know, so please send us a voice message. You can do that by going to speakpipe.com. That's speakpipe/Ingles podcast. Of course, there's a link on the website. We'd love to get your voice messages. And if you've never done one before, now is the time. Why don't you do what Carolina from Bogota did and send us a voice message? Reza, how can people contact us by email?
Write to Craig at inglespodcast.com, or to me, belfastreza@gmail.com.
And if you're interested in online courses, at mansioningles.com, we have a store where you can buy downloadable courses to help you with your English. That is available at store.mansioningles.net. We'd also like to thank our patrons who generously support this podcast and the transcriptions of these podcasts. Thank you to Bruno, our gold sponsor, who offers walking tours of Copenhagen in English and in Spanish. You can find more information on Bruno's website at copenhagenwalkingtour.com. And apart from Copenhagen, if you're going to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, why not go on a favela walking tour with Bruno's guides. It's a very safe tour, and it also helps the community to improve their daily needs. For more information, go to favelawalkingtour.com.br.
You could join our Patreon program for as little as $1 per month, and you get instant access to recent transcriptions transcribed by Angelica. If you're interested, look at Patreon, that's Patreon, patreon.com/Ingles podcast.
And we have 5 lovely new Patreon supporters joining us this month. They are Jose Ezequiel Olano, Perla Guadalupe Jimenez Belmontes, Nicolas Radoslav, and Juan Comenge Acosta. I apologize if I have mispronounced any of those names. Thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon and helping to provide transcriptions. What's next week, Reza?
Next week's episode is the difference between goal, aim, target, objective, and purpose.
That's for next week. Thank you very much for listening this week. Until next week, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
The music in this podcast is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later. We'll answer all these questions today and more in this episode on traffic. Welcome to...
You heard that, yeah?
Yeah.